This is Tom King, the writer of Kite Man. You're listening to the Top 5 Podcast. Hell yeah!
Welcome to Top 5 Comics Podcast. People talking about comics, pop culture, and events. With us today, we have Josh45.
What is happening?
And CBS, which would be me. Yeah.
It's a really lackluster introduction.
Well, I don't know, man.
Announcer man's not here this week.
That's true. Makes it a waste.
Announcer man.
Which is sad. See, so today we're doing episode number 115? Is that right?
I think so. I was on 114. Did you guys do it in between?
No.
There you go.
Yeah, all right. So 115. So today we're going to be doing, let's see, book-wise. We got an interview also. So book-wise, we're doing Venom number 2. This is from the 2018 series by Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman. Follow that up with Archie Comics Vampironica number 2. After that, we'll have a Walk Through Hell number 1. This is from Aftershock Comics. We'll follow that up with Man of Steel number 1.
X-Files, and then Man of Steel number 1.
Right. So X-Files, Case Files number 1 from IDW, and we'll end it with Man of Steel number 1 from DC. Wow, that was harder than it usually is. But before that, do we have any news, Josh?
News and information.
Word.
You like one of those ticker things.
We usually have Ross in the dog pile, but Ross has had we've had a fair amount of dog pile being busy doing dog things, I guess. Whatever that means.
Ross' comic book died.
That's not true.
That means he's dead in the comics, but he'll be back. He'll be back eventually.
Oh.
He died a heroic death, and he'll be back eventually. Because everybody comes back.
Man, that's almost true, I guess, for the most part. Anyhow, so Josh, news and comics, anything?
News and information. There's going to be a new Guardians of the Galaxy, most notably. A cool character. I kind of don't want to tell anybody that the issue he's going to be in, but
so don't.
It's a secret, so you got to read some cosmic books. You might have to read a couple of them. I will give you a hint. It takes place in space. That's the only hint I'm giving you. But a new character is going to be appearing, and he seems real cool. The mighty Juggerduck.
Bum bum bum.
A juggernaut. Howard the Duck.
That's crazy.
I don't know. That's all. Without really revealing too much and making you guys all worked up and trying to figure out what book he's going to debut and give it away, it's just going to be awesome. So there's that.
Word. We have some other weird news I don't want to talk about, but I'm going to mention that someone spoiled it anyway because they're jerks.
If you want to hear the spoiler of what happens in the Batman Catwoman wedding issue, then go read. What did I say?
New York Times, I think.
New York Times.
Yeah, of all places. Good job, DC.
The July 1st version of the New York Times, and you'll get the spoiler on that if you want to be spoiled. But it's pretty crazy big thing.
Yeah, there's a big event coming on.
Might be lying, though. It might be lying.
No, that's not how the New York Times works.
How do you know? It might just be
just self-righteous bastards.
The mighty Joe Quesada. I don't think he's that mighty. I'm actually not a big fan of him, but I like him as an artist.
That's true. He's a good artist.
I do like his art, which means good things for this news is that he's going to do a variant cover of Fantastic Four number 1 with Galactus on the front, and it looks really, really cool.
Well, that should be neat.
I don't have followed Marvel super closely as of recent, so I don't know when the last time he did something, but it seemed like it was a big deal. So
yeah, he gets covers every once in a while, but it is a big deal when he does one. But generally, they wind up being 1 in 100. So normal people being able to get a hold of them or whatever is not the easiest thing in the world, but that makes them more chase-worthy.
Cover chasers at this point seem to there's all those artists are doing all their own variants, and they're doing 10 different variants on their own websites and selling them for $50 a piece.
Yeah, there's a fair amount of that right now going on in the industry, which is getting to be kind of annoying.
Next on the list, the big Spider crossover is going to be called Spider-Geddon, and they're teasing multiple deaths, which I don't know what that means. So there's a bunch of Spider people now. So
yeah, well, ever since the Spider-Verse and the Venom-verse, we've got a whole lot of different versions of A-list characters that are from other universes with Spider or Venom symbiotes. So when they say deaths, it could easily be a whole slew of those. And those would be the type that you leave dead, probably, considering they're add-ons from other universes. But real recently, we had a death in Spider-Man 800. So I guess we'll see if that one sticks or not. and that was a pretty prolific character. So, prolific, popular character for his short time as a Venom. So I guess we'll see what that winds up being, really. I mean, character-wise, there's a whole handful of Spider people. I mean, we have Peter Parker, Eddie Brock, Ben Reilly, Spider-Gwen, the other Spider-Gwen.
Silk. Miles
Morales. Aurelia, the Spider-Girl. And that doesn't even count characters that are, like, completely out of other universes. So Spider-Gideon's getting his own book, which is the, punk rock British Spider-Man, the one with the little spike mohawk. So he's getting his own miniseries for a minute. That could easily be one of them, I guess.
I hope it's Miles Morales.
Well, then I can kill Miles.
I hope so.
Of all the characters, I feel like probably Peter Parker, Miles Morales, and Spider-Gwen are safe. And probably Eddie Brock. Everybody else, man, I don't know.
Who knows?
Good luck with that. There's been people talking they might be leaning towards the idea of a Silk movie, but if you're going to pick one of those two, I'd say you aim at Gwen and not Silk, but it's only because Gwen's more popular. But the idea of people understanding multiple universes in movies, I guess most comic book companies feel like that's not possible, but maybe DC's leaning that direction with the idea of Flashpoint being their Flash movie. Plus, then they can reboot at the start, so I guess we'll see. Anyhow.
This should interest you. M. Night Shyamalan's next, his next installment of his, Unbreakable trilogy, I guess is what you would call it. Glass is going to debut at San Diego Comic-Con.
It should be freaking awesome.
So
hopefully it's not a nightmare to try to get information on or into, because that'd be really cool to sort of see.
Yep. And other movie news, Sean Gunn says that he will be in Avengers number 4.
Okay. That's okay.
Well, he's what's his name? He's one of the Guardians guys. He's
Yondu's assistant.
Yeah.
And he's Rocket Raccoon's body capture, so when he says he's going to be in it, is he in there as Rocket Raccoon body capture, or is he in there because he technically was in the first one? Because he's Rocket Raccoon. Motion capture stuff.
Him as that character,
As what's his name? He's the guy who gets Yondu's mohawk after Yondu is dead. Oh man, I don't remember the character name. He's his first mate, and then turns on him, and then regrets turning on him. Dang it. Yeah, I don't remember his name. Character-wise.
Kraglin,
there you go.
Kraglin.
Nice.
He returns.
That's interesting.
There's a massive rumor. I'm not sure how much they've confirmed so far, but they said that Patrick Stewart is returning as Jean-Luc Picard in a new Star Trek series.
Ooh. I had not heard about that.
He's one of the ones they supposedly confirmed. They got like 4 or 5 shows and / movie things all in the works.
Huh.
In the Star Trek universe. So
that is neat.
And so this is just early rumor, but it's they're saying pretty heavily kind of a thing is the Avengers number 4 might be called Endgame. Might be the title.
Well, that would make sense, I guess. Huh. Interesting. That's okay. That's an interesting idea. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, it seems about all I have right now.
Right. I don't think there's not a whole lot of other stuff that's new. I mean, this coming week we have, the new Captain America number 1 coming out for the 4th of July, which is pretty cool. Being written by Ta-Nehisi Coates, the same guy who's been writing Black Panther. So it'll be interesting to see what he does with that. But yeah, I mean, book-wise, release-wise, 4th of July is going to have quite a few different things. Unfortunately, a few of them have been spoiled already. Silly internet.
In action figure news, the next Marvel Legends wave, they're doing a Deadpool wave, and it's got him in an X-Men suit with a crazy sombrero hat thing.
Okay, that's funny.
And an alternate head, they have him in his boxer shorts. That's one of the figures. The Build-A-Figure is, what's the big pterodactyl guy?
Oh, Sauron?
Sauron, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
I think that's the Build-A-Figure character.
Well, that's crazy. We haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, there's
like in anything. He's basically a pterodactyl with pants. Well, shorts. Because they're not full pants, but like Daisy Duke style almost.
Lady Deadpool.
That's cool.
And I don't remember Wolverine. I think that was it. That's all I remember right offhand.
All right.
But they're kind of were hush hush on some of the characters. Also, who's the Russian guy?
Colossus?
No, the bad guy. October or Omega Red.
Oh, Omega Red.
Omega Red will be one. X-23 and Bishop in his 90s costume. All in that wave.
Wow, that's crazy.
With Sauron Build-A-Figure.
Huh, I'll be damned.
So,
Well, it's been a while since we had a Omega Red figure. That's cool, too.
no.
Dang.
They're also doing a Marvel Studios the first 10 years wave with a really cool Red Skull. What's the yellow guy from the first Ant-Man movie? I'm blanking.
Yellow Jacket?
Yeah, Yellow Jacket.
Yellow's in his name, okay.
Valkyrie and Thor and Ant-Man in their movie costumes.
So the movie Valkyrie?
Or no,
Valkyrie.
what's the girl from the first one that was on his team, on Thor's team?
Sif?
Yeah, they're doing her.
They're doing a Sif figure. That's cool. All right.
And then the last Joe-Con just happened, and they, if you are into G.I. Joes, you know this, and if you don't, they've been doing like a figure subscription service on the official G.I. Joe Collector Club.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're doing like one final thing, but it's just going to be up for pre-order on the actual thing. You don't have to order the whole wave. You can just order, and they're going to come in 2 packs, and they're going to do like repaints of a bunch of figures. They're going to do 4 Tiger Force figures. They're doing, my personal favorite that I'm looking forward to is they're doing a Tiger Force Hit and Run, which was a England exclusive back originally when it was originally made way back in the 80s. So pretty excited about that. But they're going to try and round out some of the teams. Like they're doing some, like a couple of Python Patrols. I think they're trying to round out the ones that haven't come out yet.
Right.
Just they're basically all just repaints, but
yeah, they try and clean it up before they're finished.
yeah, because they're done. So
yeah,
Hasbro takes back over,
and we'll see how that goes. Maybe we'll get a new line of 4.5-inch figures for no reason. Anything to make things harder. They're almost the same. Almost.
not quite.
Jerks. Be like Visionaries. Cool, but you couldn't do anything with them.
Right.
Anyway, something I was supposed to mention earlier when we were listening to books of things we were doing in this episode. We also have an interview with David Pepose from the Denver 2018 Comic-Con, so here a month back. Cool thing, he's been nominated for, I think, 4 or 5 Ringo Awards. So, for his book, Spencer and Locke, that's the name of the book. So that's really cool. We had the interview, so actually we had 2 of the kids up with us in Denver this year, Joel and Destinee, so the 2 of them have their first, interview thing with him. And that's really neat. Spencer and Locke is a really cool book, too. He's actually getting ready to put out a 2nd volume of it as well. Short pitch for the book. Basically, if Calvin and Hobbes grew up and became a detective, well, of course we know Hobbes is his imaginary friend. So, how does that play in the world? Oh, maybe he's not really a detective. It's awesome, actually. It's a really good book. 3-part. It was only, I think, the first run was only a 3-issue miniseries, but yeah, it's pretty awesome. If you get a chance to check it out, you really should. But that's really cool that he's up for those nominations, because Ringo was an awesome artist, an awesome guy. Did a lot of great work in comics, so it's cool that there's an award after him. I think that's all I got news-wise, and then the tie-in for the interview, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's move on the books.
Just to let you know, there will be spoilers.
On to the books.
Dun dun dun. Venom, number 2 from the illustrious Marvel Comics.
Number dos.
Yes, number 2. This is the 2018 Venom, depending when you're listening to this. It's written by Donna Cates, and art is by Ryan Stegman, which is no Stegman from the Scarlet Spider series or from Superior Spider-Man, or a whole ton of other stuff he's done for Marvel. And Donna Cates, you should know from Thanos, the second half of the, where they introduced the Cosmic Ghost Rider, and from the Doctor Strange series, 2017 circa series. Anyhow, decent writer. Good artist also. So basically we pick up with Eddie dead on the floor with a giant hole in his chest, and the Venom symbiote sort of pawing around it, the wound. And this is a pretty big, the cliffhanger from issue 1 is a pretty big cliffhanger, clearly from where it picks up in issue 2. And we have a whole lot of inner monologue for the symbiote, trying to understand why Eddie's the way Eddie is. And part of this is kind of seems retconning because I don't really know if there's a whole lot of Eddie Brock story from being a kid. Most of the stuff we know about Eddie Brock comes from whenever he joined the paper as Peter's rival as a photographer. Because I don't feel like we get a whole lot of other backstory for him. I mean, there's a few other random pieces in random books, I think, but there's never been like a kid origin for him. So the cool thing about this is we kind of get pieces of that, like flashes of him being a kid, flashes of him when he was younger, and then flashes of him when he first gets the symbiote. And the entire time this is going on, we see this giant gaping hole in his chest where like ribs are split open, and the symbiote starts rebuilding his skeleton, and eventually it connects to his heart, and we see it basically jump-starting his heart, like pumping it like you would in chest compressions and doing a CPR on a person. That's what you call it, right? CPR? Is that what it's called?
CBI?
No, CPI. CB. God dang it. Whenever they're doing CPR, yeah, whenever you do the chest compressions on a person. Isn't that what that's called?
Yeah, CPR.
Or CPR when you breathe in their mouth, or is it all the same thing? It's all the same thing?
It's all the same thing.
Okay. Making me think I was crazy for a second.
The new procedure, though, is just chest compressions. They don't do the mouth thing anymore, I guess. My sister said. She's a nurse.
Oh, that makes sense, I guess.
I don't know why.
Probably because they don't want you to get you in diseases and push it in a person's chest.
They're worried you're going to turn into a zombie and start, like, bite your face off.
That would be horrible.
I think that's a zombie protocol.
I would
That's what they
definitely
call that.
understand that for sure. Bath salts or zombies, one or the other. We'll come back to bath salts in a minute. later on. Anyhow, so from there, we jump to this, what looks like a warehouse in the middle of nowhere. And there's this old man inside. And we initially see the back of him. And then when we see the front, we realize it's Rex. And Rex is one of this group connected to the soldiers that encountered Venom symbiotes, I guess, in Vietnam. Which is leading to another storyline, which we're getting, I think is a one-shot. That's called Venom First Symbiote. It might be. It's either a miniseries or a one-shot. But the truth being that Venom wasn't the first symbiote on Earth, and these other symbiotes were here way before. And apparently at some point, S.H.I.E.L.D. got a hold of them and started using them to basically make weapons. But we want to find out that this entire time Rex has been trying to track Eddie, and now Eddie's here, and he takes the whooping Rex's ass. He throws this giant oil drum out of nowhere at him, which I'm sure it was in the shadows or something, but it was pretty hilarious when he throws it. Because Rex is just like, no, man, you don't understand. He's like, what'd you get me into? And while he's in the process of whooping Rex's ass, we start seeing the red, spinny, like, crazy, glowy symbiote thing start to take over Venom. Like Eddie Venom. And partway through the beatdown, he tells Rex, you gotta move. And in the room, we have, like, a fireplace that Rex has been backed up to. And Venom basically tells Rex to dive to the ground. And he sticks his face into the fire to control this red, crazy part of the symbiote that we've never seen before.
Because that's what beats symbiotes, is fire and sonic waves.
Sonic waves and fire, yeah. So basically he sticks his own face in the fire to try to control this thing that's clearly trying to kill Rex. And is the same thing that probably killed all of Rex's friends that also were treated with symbiote stuff. So from there, like, we go through this whole conversation with Rex and Eddie trying to get the story of, like, what Rex sent Eddie into. And we jump to a flashback that basically starts explaining how Rex was in Vietnam, and his group got sent to take this hill. And in the process, they get caught in crosshairs of some snipers. And they decide, well, the only way for us to get out of this is to dig ourselves a trench so we can try to figure out a way to pinpoint where these snipers are without getting shot. And as they're digging, like, every set of dart they move, one of the guys gets picked off, until eventually Rex is just like, you know what, if I can try to protect them for a second and give them a chance. Of course, as they're digging, eventually they find a whole pile of bodies in the bottom of other guys that have the same problem. So Rex decides to charge the snipers, and he knows he's not going to make it, and he thinks to himself, well, maybe my dad will go to war, they'll spin some great story about how as a hero, but all I'm trying to do is buy them a couple more seconds to dig deeper to maybe save their lives, because he's tired of seeing everyone else get shot and die. And in the process of charging the hill, he gets shot 2 or 3 times, and then looks up and sees the air support they called for, and realizes that now, even though he feels relief for seeing the protection they asked for, that he's going to be directly in the napalm drop zone. And that leads to, like, this crazy burning flesh and him basically dying, and then he wakes up all burnt up on a hospital bed with guys around him trying to decide what to do with him. And you remember, they show a flash scene where we see like the shadow outline of Nick Fury, and he says he remembers Fury telling them to do it to him. And he didn't know why they picked him because he wasn't special, but of course maybe that's why they picked him. And basically what S.H.I.E.L.D. had done is cut off a piece of this older Venom symbiote that was like a giant dragon-looking thing, and had been using pieces of it to integrate with soldiers and make them weapons. And this is what basically saved Rex and healed his skin and fixed him. But while he was injected with it, he sees like the history of the thing. We have this cool like shot of the universe and all this stuff about how the symbiote just flew through the galaxy doing whatever it wanted to do. And then eventually we get to see it. And he says, my entire life I've heard this voice in my head, and it's been screaming the same thing, and now I understand what it means. And what he's been hearing, they give us a translation of the words, and it says what he's been hearing is God is coming, screaming in his head since the symbiote was injected. And we cut from that to this giant-looking symbiote dragon thing that's in the middle of New York, screwing things up. And of course that leads to someone to go fight it. And by the time Rex looks around, Eddie's gone. There's another reveal at the end of the book. I mean, the dragon reveal is pretty impressive. But there's another reveal of like a cameo for the next issue. But as far as like a thing story-wise, man, it is pretty freaking awesome. And like I've always had a hard time with Eddie Brock being a good guy, but there's been so much time and like so many things have happened to the guy throughout his career as Venom, career as the anti-Venom. When they gave him cancer for a little while, and he battled cancer, which part of it led to the Venom symbiote abandoning him in the first place. So getting to where we are now, it's really kind of a cool path to shape him from just being like I'm gonna eat your brain, Spider-Man Venom, to where he is now. So like that's all been really cool. I'm pretty impressed with the book's art, but I like Ryan Stegman a lot. I think the guy's awesome. He draws Spider-Mans and Venoms and symbiote stuff really great. Donny Cates has been a pretty good writer. I'm interested to see where the rest of the series goes. So yeah, the score-wise, man, this particular issue picks up in a really crazy spot. But the idea of seeing all the flashback and like the backstory for Eddie and the backstory for Rex, all super interesting, I think. I give it 3.5. As a standalone issue, yeah, the pickup place is a little rough, but I mean, it's the second issue in the series, so it's supposed to be. Anyhow, yeah, I give it 3.5. That's pretty much all I got. Josh, what do you think about that book?
I'm a bad judge because I don't like Venom.
Well, Eddie's a hard character to take as a hero, that's what I was saying.
Just all the symbiotes in general like bug me. The only time I've actually been a fan of him was when it was Flash and he was in space as Venom with Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought
the Space Knight stuff? Oh, before the Space Knight stuff, okay.
Like when he was with the Guardians and hanging out and all that kind of stuff. I like that. That was pretty cool.
Like the third incarnation when he was still Agent Venom.
Yeah, I mean, but other than that, I'm just like, it's alright. Like this whole anti-hero, blah, blah, whatever. Maybe seeing Tom Hardy playing on the big screen will change my mind, but I only give it like a 2.5. The art was really good. It was, other than that, story's like, it's alright. I'm just kind of whatever about it. Like it's not necessarily because the writing was bad. It was just, I'm not super interested, so it's hard to keep me interested in a character. Like,
sure, you're not a Venom guy, so it's hard to
the writing would have to be fantastic to like really draw me into it, and it was just like,
I think at some point I could get you in issue 1, because issue 1 sets it up pretty good and is...
I don't feel like that he did that whole, like, what did you do to us? Why we aren't this? Like, he wasn't doing the Venom talk. He was just doing the Eddie talk, so...
Well, during at least the first half of it, it makes sense because Eddie's basically dead. And, like, all we're hearing is the symbiote's opinion of things, and, like, the symbiote's inner monologue, it's not Eddie's. It's like the symbiote reading Eddie's body and mind while he's basically dead.
What I remember in the past, though, when the symbiote talks, he still says we and all that kind of stuff, though. So.
Yeah, there's been a lot of part of the Flash Thompson storyline. So I think probably the Venom Space Knight was after the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. There's a lot in there that separated the Host and Venom from each other.
Wow.
So there's a lot of that got kind of fixed during that storyline. They also visited the Venom home planet and explained to us that there's something broken in Venom that they fixed as well.
That was in Guardians.
That was in Guardians, yeah. But after that, part of the Flash and Venom being two separate things together, that's kind of where it picked up at.
Gotcha.
So I think that's indicative of just the story. Yeah, if you read Venom back in the 90s or 2000, then the concept of the two things being one, they don't necessarily write him talking that way anymore. Not generally, at least. Anyhow. Okay, so let's move on to, let's see what we're doing next. Vampironica, number 2.
Vampironica number 2. It is written and drawn by Greg and Meg Smallwood. Greg is the writer, and Megan is the artist and color artist. Wait. Yeah, well, no, I think Greg helps as well.
I don't know if he does art or not, but I think he's credited that way.
Well, this is Megan Smallwood, artist / cover artist, Greg Smallwood. So maybe Greg just did the cover.
Well, there's like 3 or 4 covers for it, so yeah.
Anyway.
Depending which book it is, version of it you got, there's an ABC cover.
Anyway, it picks up with Veronica walking through the woods. And she's talking about like wanting to call the cops, and she's looking around for a car, which CBS explained to me happened in the first one.
Yeah, the end issue to get her where she is, there's a basically giant car wreck where she crashed into Reggie, and both their cars were very totaled. In the process of that, she was fighting a vampire.
Because she hit a vampire and smashed it.
Yeah.
And so she's looking for the cars, and she's looking for Reggie as well. And so she doesn't find anything. There's nothing there, no cars, no nothing. So she's just like, I'm going to go to, because her parents got attacked by the vampire in the first one.
Yep.
So, yeah. And then, anyway, she's like, I'm going to go to Archie's house to see if he can help me. And she walks up to the window and sees like that he's on a date with Betty, and they're watching a scary movie, and she's all pissed off. Love triangle, blah, blah, blah.
Typical saboteur affair for the... Betty's pretending to be afraid. Damn you, Betty.
And she's like, thinks Betty's as being, this, and Archie's trying to put the moves on her. And so she makes a loud noise to like, right as they're about to kiss, and then runs off. And Archie's like, what was that? I don't even know what that was, and looks out the window and doesn't see anything. He's like, well, I probably woke my parents up anyway, so you should probably go. And then it goes to the school, and Veronica's like hiding in the boiler room, and she's crying. So the next morning you see Dilton, the nerdy kid, walk down to the boiler room, and Veronica like freaks out, and she like hisses at him with her red eyes and all creepy, and he's all scared. And she's like, oh, sorry, I'm just cranky when I wake up. And he's like, what are you doing here on the weekend? You know, like, why are you sleeping in the boiler room? And
which is all like, super weird.
And she's like, I don't feel good. And then she passes out. And she's having dreams of seeing, like, Betty and Jughead and Archie's heads on these, like, on these stands. And somebody's asking her to leave and calling her an animal. And she starts turning into, like, a bat monster, like...
Oh, yeah, it's pretty crazy looking.
All crazy, and they're all, like, talking trash to where the heads are. And then she wakes up, and she's strapped down to a table with, like, some sort of... She got, like, an IV in her and stuff, and Dilton's saying, hey, I pretty much figured out what's wrong with you. I know you're a vampire, and he's, like, holding a cross at her. And he's like, I'll help you, but you need to not attack me. And she breaks out of the restraints. She's like, yeah, I don't have to promise you, but whatever. And he had made her some sort of blood concoction. And they're talking about what to do next, and he told her the whole story. And then Dilton brings her home to try and, because they're going to try and figure out what to do about the situation, figure out that if you kill the head vampire, then everything goes back to normal in most vampire stories.
Yeah, they go over a whole, like, batch of, they talk about the Strigoi and, like, all the different, like, a huge mesh of different legends for vampires. But a majority of them, yeah, when you talk about the Strigoi, if you kill the lead or the main vampire, then it's supposed to free everybody. So,
and then it so they kind of come up with a plan that they need, and they figure out that they need some weapons. And then it goes to the football stadium, and Betty's talking to Archie and like about, hey, have you seen Ronnie? I can't find him. Oh, have you seen Veronica at all? Neither of them have seen her, and Reggie's missing as well. Like, wondering when he's run off to, but obviously has been in the game, so they're wondering.
Yeah, where he's disappeared to afterwards. Because when Betty mentions it, Archie's like, "Oh yeah, I gotta totally go thank him for having my back all game, man. Like he was a beast today."
And then it goes to the next page, which looks like he's making out with some girl, Reggie, and then he turns his face and his eyes are all red, and he's been biting her.
He's basically making her lunch, which is why he was so badass in the football game.
So he's a vampire now.
Oh yeah.
And that's the end of that one. And I liked it. I like stories like that. It's your classic vampire kind of teenage story. Like, had some violence, had some, the story was good. Like, some cool characters, like bringing in, it's a different take of the Archie universe. Seems to be there all sorts of different takes on it lately, but with the success of Riverdale and all that stuff. But I liked it. I was impressed with it. I give it like a 3.5.
Cool. Score-wise, I follow suit. I like the art in it a lot, only because it's like sort of, like, it's really good, but the color palette to it has this like almost old school horror feel to the art, which I think is really cool. And like when Ronnie turns her head and like scares the hell out of the nerd, like it's awesome. And then when we see her in her weird nightmare or low blood nightmare turning into a monster, like it looks creepy as hell.
Yeah.
So like it's awesome.
It's kind of a mix between like if this was a movie, it would remind me of a mix between like The Lost Boys and that movie Disturbing Behavior, kind of like.
Oh yeah. I can see
that kind of feel, because it's high school, but it's like the violence. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I give it 3.5 also. I mean, the whole Archie whorehouse, which is what they call it, that's the line of Archie comics that are scary ones. Like, all those have been really good for different reasons. I mean, I'll give you the Afterlife with Archie is great, but it also came, like, it was the first one. That's the whole Walking Dead mixed with Archie, and it's great. But they have, Hunger with Jughead, where he's a werewolf, and that's awesome. The stories don't connect to each other. The only ones that sort of connect, I guess Sabrina, when Afterlife first started, Sabrina connected to it. Now, Sabrina's got her own series, but it's separate too. And it's way more like hardcore witchery. It's not cute and funny. It's definitely more culty. But they've done pretty good with all of them. I mean, I'll give you the Sabrina series. The art's a little rough for me, but it's not bad. It's like classic Tales from the Crypt style. So yeah, I've been pretty impressed with what they've done. And this Vampironica thing, yeah, I dig it. It's cool.
I'd be curious to see what they do in the future of this universe, of the horror universe.
Right.
I like Cheryl Blossom. I want to see where they go with her.
Well, she definitely cameos in the beginning of this storyline. I don't know if we'll see her again in the first issue. She shows up, not in the second issue. But yeah, as a thing, she's the only one that hasn't got her own weird spin. I mean, in Hunger, Betty's basically a vampire hunter, or a werewolf hunter, excuse me. So, I'd be surprised if we don't see something for Cheryl at some point. Cool. Alright, well, let's move on to, A Walk Through Hell. This is, issue number 1, and it's from Aftershock Comics.
Garth Ennis' new book.
Yeah, it's written by Garth Ennis. The art from it is by, Goran Sudzuka. If I pronounce that wrong, sorry about that.
I think it's Goran.
I guess that makes sense.
You want to make him like a 1950s sci-fi villain. Goran.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Either way.
I wonder if that's how he feels about it. Anyhow, so A Walk Through Hell, right? So the way this book launches, we're in the middle of what appears to be shopping season for Christmas. And we have a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife combo walking through the mall. She's carrying the baby, in one of those baby harnesses. And he's carrying a bunch of packages, and the two of them are talking about setting their parents up on a date, which is kind of weird.
And he's like a hipster-looking Bryan Cranston.
Yeah, he does look like Bryan Cranston a lot, actually. But with the Oliver Queen, trimmed beard.
Right.
And during this entire thing, we have their dialogue and them talking, and then we have what's playing as a monologue along with it, talking about this. This was one of the easiest moments of the whole thing, which is a weird, somebody's reflecting what's happening, but it's happening for us for the first time. And when we get to page 2, we get the first big, shocking reveal, and it's that a gunman has entered the mall, and one of the first things we see is him shoot the mom and baby in the faces. Well, in the baby's face, at least. And, leaves the husband alone. And the voice monologue's talking about how he has to relive that every day of his life, watching the two of them die right next to him with nothing he can do about it. And then we see some other people get shot, and then eventually the shooter turns the gun on himself. And it's just crazy. That leads us to join a female in bed, in sheets. She's sort of asleep, but having a nightmare. And then we meet another fella who's in a business suit.
She just keeps screaming, no, don't, over and over again. Oh, right,
yeah. As she's dreaming. So we basically meet two new characters on the next page. The woman in bed, which later we find out is an FBI agent. And then the male who's in suit and tie on the way to work, reading his Twitter blog. And his Twitter blog's talking about the shooting and talking about how everything's so PC and how it just about the current culture in America pretty much is what it's about.
About gun control and how it was it because the woman in the mall that died was because she was Asian, or was
right.
it, well, what about everybody else that died? It's just the normal argument that goes on.
Yeah, the same nonsense you see on Twitter all day, especially when something happens that's crazy. Anyhow, well, he's on the road on the way to, we find out, pick her up, and he meets her at home, and of course picks her up for the two of them to go meet a couple other FBI agents, trying to decide what to do, or who's going to be assigned to what area this part of the day. And so they join the other two for lunch, going over part of what was an old case, which we don't really get a whole lot of the old case in here, so I'm assuming at some point that's got to come into play. But they're all reviewing old notes and talking about that over lunch, and then one group decides they're going to go deal with this warehouse situation, and the other group's going to go off to deal with something to do with the mall, which is the shooting. And there's some banter back and forth, so clearly they've all worked together for a while or whatever. Anyway, eventually, so we have one group go to deal with the shooting, and then the other group goes to deal with this warehouse problem, which the guys going to deal with the warehouse are like, this is something the local PD should handle, and they're like, yeah, that's the problem. Local PD was already sent, and nothing's happening. So our two agents go to the house where the man who did the shooting lived, and we're talking about how he had a normal family, he had a good job, like there's no reason for him to go on this weird rampage out of nowhere. He didn't even own a gun before like the previous month or something. So like out of nowhere the dude just loses it. And neither of them can really understand why.
Then they show up in this parking lot of this warehouse they're going to.
Right. Well, they haven't heard back from the other group. The other two partners that they sent haven't contacted back. Like, they called right before they entered the warehouse, and then we've heard nothing, so they decide, well, I guess we should probably go down there too. And that's when we join them outside the warehouse in this parking lot. And granted, when they were at the house, they found some other paperwork that might have shed some light on something that they hint at, but we don't really get a lot of that either.
Very vague up to this point.
Well, yeah, as far as, like, what they learned in the house is still questionable. But yeah, so the whole reason they went to the warehouse is because the other guys called before they went in, and then we haven't heard anything back since. So either they all went on vacation, or took a break, or they're still in the warehouse. Which begs the question, why are they still in that warehouse hours later on something that should have been simple?
And they show up in the SWAT, the main partners that you see are asking all these questions, and they're like, well, we did do all that. And they're like, what about the SWAT team? And like, well, yeah, they all came back out. And they're sitting in the vehicle, and
they talk about how they sent them in. They all came out 30 seconds later, all freaked out, fears of dread, like stuff like they got spooked or something. And basically the reason they hadn't called that in is because they were afraid of how bad it would look to the FBI, I guess. Which I guess makes sense. I mean, if you send your heavy hitter guys in there and 30 seconds later they come out and hide in their van, that is pretty weird. And it would make you look bad as a police department, I guess. But that leads to our group deciding that they're going to go inside and they're going to see what the hell's going on. From there, we cut to part of the most disturbing part of this whole particular issue. We join the SWAT team in the van, and they're all talking to each other about how crazy it is and how they are just so, not even so much afraid, just it's like they're afraid of impending doom. And as they're talking about is there anything we can do? We need to call somebody. They're like, it won't make any difference. You can't call anyone. And that leads to the group of them pointing their guns at each other's heads.
Like across the van.
Like execution style against each other. And not like in fits of rage, but in this is the only way to get out. Because what's coming is way worse. And from there, we wind up finding one of the other officers catches them after the shooting. And once they realize what's happened, they turn to try to catch the FBI agents before they go into the warehouse. But by the time he gets over there, they've already been gone inside for 30 seconds or something. And we join them inside as they're searching around, and so far they haven't found anything. And that's kind of where it leaves us. So this impending doom, whatever it is, whatever it was, spooked them all so bad that the only way they could escape it was to kill each other. As a mercy save you kind of killing. Which is crazy. And it's unsettling. Very unsettling. Josh, you have a score for that book?
I give like a 2. It's so vague that, I mean, I know it's an issue number 1, but it's so vague. It's like nothing. And it's like, okay, but it'd be hard for me to pick up this book and want to pick up number 2. It's just like, and there's some really cool things in it, like the execution style of the SWAT team, like just holding guns at each other's heads across the van, all 8 of them, was really cool scene, like the artist drew that was pretty rad, but overall I was just kind of disappointed. Usually, like, I would have been in, Garth Ennis kind of, I just had higher hopes that, maybe he, I don't know, needed to give just a little bit more.
All right. Garth Ennis I can take or leave. His Punisher stuff I like a lot. His Cross stuff I thought was shock value for shock value. His Boys stuff I thought was shock value for shock value. It was good, and the Boys was good, but a lot of it was shock value for the sake of it. And that doesn't kill anything story-wise, but for me, it wasn't until a turn on for me with the Boys. This particular book, like, it's just so crazy. I was interested enough to follow it forward to the second issue, only because it's just so, like, if this was a TV series, yeah, the closing would be a little hard, but as far as, like, the introduction of things, like, I don't know without reading 2 yet whether I would chase it forward after that or not, just because we've only learned a little bit about our detectives, our main characters. And if this was like I said, if this was like a TV show, all that stuff with the officers in the truck is so intense that it's just crazy. And whatever it is they're afraid of, I mean, the book's titled A Walk Through Hell, so I have to assume that hell is coming. And what that means, I'm in. Only because of that. After issue 2, I guess we'll see. I don't know after that. But for a first issue, it wasn't bad. But like you said, I kind of wish the cliffhanger was a little more than just the 2 of them in the warehouse.
Right.
So that part kind of felt short. But what do I know? But yeah, I give it a 2 also. The art's good. It's an interesting concept, but I kind of wish there was a little more at the end.
Right. I think on something that dry and that, like, if it would have been a TV show, like you said, like, the acting would have carried it.
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. If this was like an episode of a show, you'd be a lot more sold probably on the way the characters interact with each other, at least the 2 detectives. But it is a little dry, but it's also the first time we've really met them. So if it was a movie, you'd be relying on the actors to sell it to you. And like the guys in the truck, man, it's intense as hell. If it was a show or a movie, that would just be amplified.
Right.
Because of how crazy it is.
But speaking of shows,
we move on to X-Files. So, to join some more FBI folks. Like that? No? Okay. We do FBI Case Files number 1. And this is Case Files The Florida Man.
FBI Case Files?
No,
X-Files.
X-Files Case Files Florida Man number 1. I'm pretty sure is the full title. Which is a lot of words.
A mouthful.
Yeah. Oh, it's a heck of a lot for one particular title. All right, and this issue is written by Delilah Dawson, and the art is by
Alina Casagrande.
All right, and this is for a while X-Files has been with IDW, and the majority of the stuff they've done has been pretty good. I mean, I haven't read all of it, but the ones I've read I've liked. So, anyway, so we open up with this first issue. And we are joining Fox and Mulder, or Fox and Scully. Man, that's bad.
Scully and Mulder?
Yeah.
Sculder and Mully?
Something like that. Both exiting a plane in Ocala, Florida. And they give us a date. It's 2017 in the book, so timeline-wise. And as they exit the plane, like, Mulder is not okay with the heat, and he talks about how people that talk about dry heat and wet heat have never experienced the 2 things together because it's like walking through soup. And I thought, man, that is actually a hilarious way to describe that because, yeah, man. And throughout the story, he's plagued by this terrible heat and weather and terrible sweating, like, throughout the entire issue. Whereas Scully doesn't seem to have exactly the same problem with it, but, you know, that's a guy thing, I guess. Anyhow, so the 2 of them are on the way to this small town where their issues of this, what they call the Florida Man, have happened, and we got dead bodies showing up, and the 2 of them are talking about it, and they go over a batch of news clippings and talk about how it's possible it's just bath salts or meth.
Just meth and bath salt attacks.
Right.
And people eating each other's faces because they took bad drugs.
Right. So, and of course, Fox is kind of like, oh no, it could be something else, at least a little bit. And she's like, yeah, no, this is what it's going to be. That's how things always work. And as they're driving along, so they stop at a diner. That's where they're going over all the file stuff and all the possibilities. And of course, Scully's of the opinion, don't make it more than it is, Mulder, which is normal for the show. So that all fits well. They leave, and the way out the door, Mulder's like asking the lady at the register what she can do about sending him with a glass of ice or with a cup of ice. And Scully's like, you really need to try to adjust the way you appear, because the idea of us both having like government meaning, like, what do you call it how'd she say it? Oh, it's written in here. She talks about his appearance not selling the idea of their having authority, because the way he's disheveled from the heat. Which I thought was hilarious, because in my head I'm just like David Duchovny in a messy shirt with all buttoned stupid and whatever. Anyway, it's funny. Anyhow, so we join the two of them in the car, and now they're traveling to this small town that's out in the middle of nowhere. And along the road, they wind up seeing a street vendor sell like a side, not even a street, because they're driving on like a 2-lane highway. But there's a guy out there with a sunshade set up, selling art. And so Mulder's like, we should stop. And she's like, oh, come on, dude, seriously? And the two of them stop, and of course he gets out, puts on his jacket, goes over and starts talking to the artist. And the artist starts talking about how back in the 50s and 60s there was a whole movement about art and
artists selling things on the side. They were called the highwaymen.
Right.
And they were artists who sold paintings on the side of the road because that was the best way to get because they couldn't get their art put into galleries and stuff.
Right. And of course, happens to be one that is very alien/Egyptian, and Mulder's a sucker for anything with a flying saucer. So he winds up buying one of the paintings from the guy, and in the process of talking to him, of course, Scully comes over and she starts talking with him too, and starts asking about how he's influenced by Egypt, and he talks about how Egypt is very similar to Florida in people and heat and water. And all these different things that are similar, which, I mean, a lot of cities are similar that way too, but the way he delivers it's pretty good. And
about how Egypt wasn't always just sand.
Right. And then he's like, oh, so you two a couple? And she's like, kind of, in not the normal convention. And then she's like, I guess he's taking this one? And the guy's like, oh yeah. So it was a kind of cool nod to the two of their weird relationship. Anyhow, so they buy the painting, and then on the road they go. And partway through, so now we're a little farther down the road, and Mulder has her stop again because there's this giant, like, turtle in the middle, or on the side of the road.
Snapping turtle.
Yeah, and he, like, investigates that for a second, like, and she's like, I think the heat's getting to you, man. Like, you're acting weird. And he about gets his hand bit by the thing, and he's like, this is like a freaking dinosaur. Which I thought was hilarious, too. And she's like, yeah, you need to get back in the car. Like, I think the heat's just making you crazy, man. And so they drive on a little farther, and they come into the beginning of this town, and there's a whole bunch of folks out at, like, a church bazaar gallery, or like not gallery, like a church auction kind of thing going on, or some type of church event. And there's a whole lot of people at it.
Festivities.
Right. And, like, Scully's like, this seems weird. And he's like, either we're both having a delusion, or this town is way more normal, and, like, there's a lot of people that live here. Which doesn't make any sense because of where it's in the middle of nowhere. And the two of them had an appointment, of course, to meet with the sheriff. And so the two of them talk for a second about that before they enter the building, about whether he's going to be sweet or sour. And she's like, no one's ever happy to see us, Mulder. Not ever. And so when they get into the station, of course, most of the officers treat them like, what are you guys doing outsider style? And they come to the sheriff, and the sheriff, like, sitting him back in his chair with his feet up on his desk, and he's full on, like, alligator boot style. And, of course, he's like, we don't need no outsiders looking into our problems, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, well, we have, these cases we gotta try to deal with, and problems with these Florida man sightings. And, of course, he writes it off as just being methodics, killing methodics, and explains how, on the other side of the tracks, you have a different style of life. You live in the trailers, make meth, new people move in to get close to the meth, eventually you die, and since the swamp's right there, they put you in the swamp, and the gators eat you. Cycle of life. And so Mulder takes from that, oh, so you said the problem is in the trailers, and that's where they make the meth. Thanks. So basically he got everything he needed from the dude when he tried to explain his version of the circle of life, while he was trying to shoo them away. Pretty much is what the cop was trying to do. Of course, that leads the two of them to be more interested, and Mulder to have an idea where they need to go. Of course, the other side of the railroad tracks, because that's where everything's dangerous. Anyhow, so they decide to go through town a little bit and get kind of lay of the land on the way to their hotel. And they come across this weird, like, souvenir shop for the most part. And it's Big Steve's Gator World is the name of it. And Muller's like, we can't not stop. Which, in my head, is just hilarious. So they enter into Big Steve's Gator World. And inside there's, like, all kinds of, like, stuffed gators, gator heads, gator skulls. And there's, like, a fair amount of them posed, like, standing up, almost like Egyptian Ankh style. Or like Godzilla style, is how the things look. And eventually they meet Steve, who looks like a biker from, I don't know, any biker group, I guess. Seems, fairly normal for a biker guy. And so they start asking questions, and of course he's pretty happy at first to just answer questions and try to sell them stuff, and eventually he realizes they're not going to buy anything. And he tells them that, what is it that kills a cat?
Curiosity.
And in the process of that, of course, his cat jumps up on the table just in time for it to be in the shop.
No, it's a stuffed cat, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because it's not there and then it's there.
Yeah, see, I think he takes it from under the counter. And
Is that what happened?
Because Curiosity kills the cat, and he sets a dead stuffed cat up on the counter.
Okay. That explains why the cat doesn't look like it's moving. Well, it's comic book, so you never really know if it's moving, but that makes that even funnier. First time around, I thought, how'd that cat get there? But I never took it as being a stuffed cat. Good on you, that's hilarious. It's even funnier now. Dang, man. I didn't realize it was supposed to be a stuffed cat, but that makes a lot of sense.
Everything in there is stuffed.
Which also makes a lot of sense, too. Anyway, so they decide to leave, because Mulder couldn't convince Scully she needed an alligator head at home.
No, that's not what happens.
Yeah, it is.
No.
He basically makes them leave.
He goes, hey, where's the bath salts? And the guy's like, dude, what are you talking about? I don't have drugs here. Get out of my store.
Yeah,
like, super jerk style. Like, just straight up ask this guy, like...
Well, it's pretty funny, because earlier she says, with all your shaking and, like, your sweating, it's only a matter of time before they find you to sell you things, so you look like you need it. Which is pretty funny, too.
Right.
So anyway, after they leave the shop, we wind up getting this close-up of a hobo guy sitting there who's trying to panhandle for money to buy food. And the two of them go to their hotel finally, and they're inside trying to check in, and they hear yelling out in the street. And that alerts them both to run outside and try to see what's going on. And the hobo guy, he's got a hold of himself a lady who's pregnant, who's, I guess, just crossing the street or whatever, and he's shaking her and he's yelling at her, and it becomes dangerous enough that Scully feels like she has to draw her gun. And then
trying to eat her, I think.
Well, he lunges at Fox afterwards. Like, Fox gets in the middle of him, and he starts wrestling a dude.
His mouth's all, like, open and, like...
Yeah, oh yeah, he's definitely, like, crazy.
Foaming at the mouth style.
So Scully pops a cap in him. She also, when in the shooting, she actually hit the girl in the arm, too. But, yeah, so Fox wrestles the dude for a minute. The dude basically disarms and throws Fox to the ground, which happens pretty normally. And then he comes after the lady, and when he's coming after the lady the second time around, that's when he's, like, all frothy at the mouth, crazy. And that's when Scully pops him. Afterwards, she starts attending to the girl's wounded arm and tells Fox to go search the body. And he's like, oh yeah, because that's what I really need, is to search a body and get stabbed with a needle, because I haven't had that happen yet. Which is, he says it better than I did, but it was good. In the process of him searching the body, of course, he finds packs of some bath salts. And then underneath the dude's shirt, which is slightly ripped, he sees like this crazy burn scarification mark on the dude. And he's like, what's this? Dun, dun, dun. And that's what leads us to our second volume, or second issue.
Well, it looks like the same Egyptian writing stuff that was on the painting.
It does. So, like, as a thing in general, Mayor Man along the road that was the art vendor isn't all legit. Anyhow, score-wise, I don't know. I liked it a lot, actually. Like, as far as a setup, I give it a 3. I thought the writing was fun. I like how the two of them sort of play off each other. I could easily see this being an episode. Like, easily. I like the art a lot. Thought the art was pretty good. There are a few issues, not issues. There's a few backgrounds that were lackluster, but that doesn't kill the book by any means. I still thought it was good. So yeah, I give it a 3. Awesome.
I enjoyed it a lot. I didn't think I was going to, because I was like, I don't know, X-Files is a comic book, like, come on. And after having read the other one that we did, Trip in the Hell one,
A Walk Through Hell.
I was like, another TV show style comic, and this one was done the exact opposite. It gave you just enough. It was entertaining. You believed in the characters. Yeah, like you said, it could have been very easily. It was written like that they actually talk. Could have been an episode. And I don't watch a ton of X-Files. When I do, I enjoy it, but I haven't watched a ton. And I enjoy the issue a lot. Like, I thought it was cool. So, I give it 3.5. Almost a 4. I'd go so far as to say if the art was a little bit better. Like, if they, had somebody like, I don't know, Ed McGuinness drawn it.
Oh my God.
I'd give it a 4.
Ed McGuinness would make no sense for the X-Files. Man, Mulder wouldn't just be sweating. He'd be sweating and transforming into the Hulk.
I'd say J. Scott Campbell, but he would just draw both of them in sexy poses the whole time, so. I mean, that wouldn't do us any good either.
No way that should tell a story at all. Man.
No, it was good. I really enjoyed it. It's one of those ones that I almost didn't even notice the art because the writing was so good.
Yeah, the story was really good. The art's really good too. I mean, the only couple places with a whited out background, most of it was, I think, for effect actually. Because when the dude charges her with the frothy mouth, it's like the background drops away. So it's almost like a selling point for the action. So I don't really have a problem with it. I just, when I see blank panels, I'm kind of like, man, I get why they did it. It makes perfect sense actually. But I'm a complainer, so there you go.
There you go.
Bum, bum, bum. But I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was great.
You do complain a lot.
Whatever. All right. Let's just move on to Man of Steel #1.
Man of Steel #1. Real stoked on this book.
Written by Brian Michael Bendis.
Bendis' first run as Superman.
Yep.
And Ivan Rice is the pencils.
Yep.
And it starts off, boom, fire and space and a planet, Krypton. Really big words.
Oh yeah, like shot from space.
Many years ago, as
right.
it says. And there's this, so if you haven't read Action number 700, you're not going to know who this character is. If you did read Action 700.
1000, you mean?
Or 1000,
yep.
Yeah, sorry, 700.
You're good.
I said that. 1000, it's the guy that shows up at the very last story of Action Comics 1000, the big bad guy that Superman's fighting.
Rogue Lazar, I think is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you're actually supposed to pronounce it because it's separated in 2 words, but...
Rogol, yeah, R-O-G-O-L, Zar.
Yeah.
But it's him trying to convince these gigantic blue hologram floaty head things, only one of them which I really recognize, and that's a Guardian.
From Green Lanterns, yeah.
Green Lantern Guardians. Trying to convince them that Krypton has overstepped their bounds and that they need to basically exterminate every Kryptonian and Krypton in general because they're just a plague on the universe. Right.
They're growing too big and too fast, and they're trying to expand their grasp on the world. They're only going to cause problems in the universe.
And then it goes to kind of a confrontation between Firefly and Killer Moth.
Yep.
And they're like...
in modern day Metropolis.
Yeah, modern day Metropolis now. And like Firefly's just in his bathrobe. And like, kind of like, I don't know who you are. And he's like, I'm Killer Moth. He's like, all right. And they're sitting there kind of just like chatting and like he's shaking him down. And he says the wrong thing. He says, put your hands up. And he's like, what are you doing? He listens for stuff like that. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's in Tanzania. I was paying attention. And he's like, no. And all of a sudden Superman bursts through and pulls him out the window. Both of them, actually.
Right.
Because he's been, Firefly's been hiding out in Metropolis. He thought, like, hiding in plain sight was kind of the thing to do. And he's like, as long as you don't say the key words. And
Superman won't find you.
And Killer Moth's like, oh God, please don't drop me. And he's just like, I don't do that. And Firefly's like, Batman does it all the time. He's like, yeah, but it's funny when he does it.
It's awesome.
Like, already the writing's fantastic. I mean,
that was pretty good.
And it's like classic Superman, like big spread page, great art, like got the red undies back, just full on awesome. And then it's him like with the Daily Planet globe in the background, listening and doing the Superman thing. That's kind of like listening over Metropolis, listening for things that he does, that he just keywords and things to try and he hears a song and he's really into the song, and he's like, oh, and he was so absorbed in the song that he's like, dang it, I didn't hear the screams. I didn't hear him right. And so he gets there and he has to rush, and there's a fire in a building, and he saves it. Like the firefighters all, this floor Superman, and he goes and he saves them. And the last person he saves is this little girl that swears a lot with 2 puppies.
It's pretty funny.
And he's like, language, and she swears some more. And he does this like Superman-esque, like swirly, sucking, blowy fire, like pull the fire out of the building.
Right.
With pressure and air and wind and things. And
yeah, he uses the super breath to suck the fire out and then let it burn on himself, which is nothing to feed it. So it basically puts the fire out.
And then he's kind of going through the building, checking for evidence and things like that, because he knows there's too many. Because other buildings have been catching fire a lot in Metropolis lately, and he's like, "Is it an electrical thing? Just not building codes up to date?" He's like, "Nah, it seems like an arson thing." And that's when he runs into the new fire chief, Melody Moore, and she seems, I think she's drawn to be quite foxy,
right,
and maybe a possible homewrecker.
Well,
if it was somebody else,
right?
And but Superman's too good for that. And she's like, "Am I as tall as Wonder Woman?" She's convinced it's arson as well, and they talk about that for a few minutes. And she's like, "Am I taller than Wonder Woman?" He's like, "You are actually." And she's like, "I knew it."
Well, yeah, he puts her on the path of, you need to get this out to the reporting investigating group over at the Daily Planet. You should go in there and ask for Lois Lane and Clark Kent. Just ask for Kent. Like he'll get your story out to the media to try to alert people there's an arson, to keep their eyes open and stuff.
And then she says some things under her breath, and then she's like, "Oh, dang it. Stupid. He has super hearing." And he like kind of smiles and looks back.
Yeah, it's pretty cute.
And then it goes back to then, and it's that Rogol's Lazar fighting some gigantic monster, and a guardian shows up. And he's just like, "This is an interesting place to live." He's like, "Well, I have to keep up my strength and my fighting skills in the off-season from hunting Kryptonians, basically."
Yeah, whenever the war's not happening, I figure a way to keep myself strong, and that's how I do it here.
And he's like, "Well, just so you know, we can't do anything because the Kryptonians haven't really done anything, so you're kind of on your own, dude."
Yeah, he basically tells them the council's decided that they're not with his proposal, and that they don't want him to do anything.
And he thinks somebody's like paid him off. He's all pissed off, so
he gets super pissed at the Guardian before he leaves, and he's like, "Who is the page to decide with the Kryptonians? Oh, a conspiracy against me, blah, 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 blah." And
then it flashes back to now, and it's Clark sitting at his desk typing some stuff up, and Perry's like, "Oh, I got this great story for me." And he's like, "Yeah, arson." He's like, "That's not what I meant by a great story. That's just a regular story." And then it's just, he's like, "Superman was there according to reports." And they're like, "All right." Like, that's like no big deal. Like,
and it's pretty funny the way it happens, because he's like, "Yeah, I got arson." And Perry's like, "Arson's nothing, dude." And then, of course, Jimmy Olsen chimes in with "Oh, Superman is supposed to be there." And he's like, "Oh, I guess it'll work."
And then it, flashes to him home, and, John standing there in his shirt and cape, but he's gotten a growth spurt, and the shirt's a little too short for him now. And he's just like, "Mom says she doesn't have any time to fix it, and that I should join the legion of kids that are old enough to fix their own problems."
Which is pretty funny.
And they're like chatting about just hanging out in the kitchen, like talking about the day. Then all of a sudden, they're all kind of like a flash, and Lois yells Clark with question marks, and it just whites out into, "Dad, what is Clark?" And then nothing. It's just white, like a big old cliffhanger.
So whatever's come to them is something that none of them expected. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
Right.
So I liked it a lot because I love Superman. This was like probably one of the first time in a long time it's been like, to me, like just a straight up cool Superman story. Like, just to start fresh, it's cool. It's like an interesting, like a potential for a really awesome villain. I don't know. I was real stoked on it. So I give it a 4.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not bad. It's an interesting story. Like, the setup for it. And this guy's coming out once a week until it's over, and it's 6 issues. So it's coming out super fast, and it's all prior to the actual launch of Brian Michael Bendis' normal Superman series, which he's also taking over Action Comics as well, which for folks who've been reading Superman, it's kind of a rough batch because the stuff that was being done by the groups before, like Dan Jurgens stuff, was good. This is a fresh take, not even fresh take. This is a new writer, and like the way the story starts is very apple pie Superman, so it's awesome. And like the neat little catches in there, like with the girl whispering under her breath, and Firefly and Killer Moth both like, you don't go to Metropolis because Superman will catch you, and the two of them like basically showing down or going after each other over money that one feels the other owes them. And when Superman catches them, it's all like, it's just so funny. The whole Batman line is just hilarious.
And I think that when Superman is written well, all those things are amazing. Like the family aspect of it, he's a family man, and he cares about people, and he cares about like him sitting there listening to some woman sing a song that he recognizes and he's heard before, but it's also the best he's ever heard it be sang. And his son growing up, and like his clothes are too small for him because he had a growth spurt, and
it's just funny, yeah.
You know, just like his interaction with Perry and Jimmy, and like, yeah, it had everything that I love about a Superman story.
Sure. Score-wise, I give it 3.5. I mean, it was good. The art's really great. The story's really neat. I don't like if we're divorcing ourselves from the old stories, so that part still makes me a little hesitant about whether I'm completely on board with this whole thing, but ultimately I don't have a choice, so you just have to move forward. Anyhow, so yeah, I give it 3.5. Neat. I'm interested to see like what they do with it. I mean, again, Rogue Lazar's whole like pitch from Action, if you didn't hear the previous episode, like thoughts about Rogue Lazar in general, so I guess if you want that, go back a couple episodes. So let's go and run the interview from Denver Comic Con. This is David Pepose. So we'll run that, and then we'll be back with you in a second.
Hi there, this is Joel,
And Destinee.
and we're here with David Pepose, who's the writer of Spencer and Locke.
Hi.
Yeah, we're going to do a quick interview for the podcast. I don't know if we need to be saying that, because we're on the podcast right now, technically, aren't we? We're new at this. You're our first one, and we were like, sweet, we'll talk to the guy we've talked to before. He seems nice.
Thank you. This is a huge honor, and I'm so glad to be on here. So thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, so my first question for you was kind of what inspired you to get into comic book writing?
Oh boy, it was a really long process to get here. I love comics my entire life, but it took me a while to come to the idea of actually writing one of my own. I interned at DC Comics out of college in their editorial department. That was in 2008. So circa Batman R.I.P. and Final Crisis. Of course, that was also circa a recession. So there were no jobs. But I managed to hold on to the industry by my fingernails, working at Newsarama.com.
Nice.
I was the reviews editors there. And for a while, I was reading books and really digging them. But there was a period where I wasn't connecting to books the way I wanted to. And I kind of fallen away from my dreams of being an editor. So I thought maybe I should just put my money where my mouth is and make the kind of comic that I would want to read. So this kind of happened on a lark, though. I wrote the first script just to see how it felt, and then I wrote a whole treatment to see how that felt, and then I found an artist to draw some pitch pages just to see what it looked like, and then I just pitched it around kind of for funsies, and then suddenly a publisher was like, hey, when can you get this book done? And I was like, oh, this is real. So yeah, I mean, it was, but I did every possible safe job I could before this, and then finally, after I finished doing all of those, and I finally decided to take the leap.
Nice. That's awesome.
So we know that Spencer and Locke is kind of influenced a little bit by Calvin and Hobbes. What else inspired you to kind of write this whole story?
Well, it's funny you say that because I'm a big fan of mashup music. Things like Nine Inch Nails meets Call Me Maybe, like songs that should not go together but do. And I thought, why hasn't anybody tried this with comics? So Frank Miller was actually the first comics writer for me as a kid that made me realize that real people wrote these. This was not like made in a committee. There's a real voice involved that really stood out to me. And so I thought, my first book, I'd love to do something kind of in that vein. And I thought, what would be the weirdest thing to go with Frank Miller? And I went through a couple of ideas, and they all felt very shotgun. It's very one note. But when I thought of Calvin and Hobbes, not only did it sort of did it feel diametrically opposed, but it felt like there was a greater message in play. I thought there was always something a little sinister about Calvin and Hobbes' dynamic, because why doesn't he have real friends? Like, why does he have to so vividly hallucinate a best friend? What's his home life like? And so when you start thinking about that, and he's carried him as an adult, then you're like, what was his upbringing? And once I asked that question, the answers were not pretty, but that really kind of unspooled the rest of the story for me.
The funny thing is, I said, there's this book coming out called Spencer and Locke, like, when it first came out, and she started reading and read the whole thing. Meanwhile, I read the entire trade paperback this morning to get ready for this interview, so I was like, yeah, because she got it yesterday, so, or a couple days ago. Yeah, so I read through the whole thing, and one thing I was really surprised by is I was like, this could just be kind of like a slide-in story for Sin City. Like, that character could definitely exist and be like Frank Miller's take on Calvin and Hobbes, and I thought that was really awesome. I really dug that part.
It's funny because when I wrote our first issue with no art involved, so I did not know what Spencer and Locke were going to look like.
Yeah.
And so I had written Locke's voice is very much like Marv from Sin City. That was kind of my big inspiration.
Yes.
But then when Jorge drew the characters, I had originally thought that Locke was going to be kind of a beefy kind of guy, and Spencer would be a very thin, lanky, kind of sardonic partner. And when Jorge switched it up on me, I was like, oh, no, that's right.
Yeah.
And so after that, Dwight, Clive Owen's character from the movie, he became sort of my muse for Locke, sort of this tortured figure who he's got his own personal demons that he's desperate to kind of keep down below the surface. And he's not always successful with
Yeah, he's a bad guy trying his best to be good. That kind of situation.
Yes, and that's sort of a theme that we were really looking forward to exploring in future installments. Also, is that this nature versus nurture question is: are you born a bad guy? Do you become a bad one? Can you overcome and transcend your scars, or are you going to always be defined by them?
Yeah,
and that's really kind of the central question that's going to be posed by our series.
Cool, awesome. You want to answer that next one?
Yeah, so you sold a lot of copies here at the convention. Have you gotten any feedback from anyone?
Yeah, that's my favorite thing about cons, and I think this is a unique thing for this book, is that we have people that I affectionately refer to as frequent flyers, because they will come on a Friday or a Saturday, they will read the book overnight, and they will come back so excited.
Yeah.
And as a creator, there's nothing more heartening than that kind of reaction. I feel like apathy is really the only bad response. I mean, thankfully, the majority of people have loved our book. There have been a few who have hated it on principle, just based on the premise, and that's totally fine. We knew going in this book was going to get people talking.
Yeah.
And it's been so exciting to hear people come back who are skeptical about the book and read it and be like, oh my gosh, I love this book. Thank you for selling me on it. And then it's exciting to say, well, we got more coming.
Yeah, that's always fun. And I really dug it. I was, I suggested it to her, and I was like, this seems like something you would like,
It's very much the Evel Knievel of crime noir comics. No one's more surprised than me that we stuck the landing.
Yeah.
Part of the reason that we made this book so kind of weird and eclectic was I thought if people hate this, I'm going to be in comic book jail and never be allowed to write anything again. So I said, I want everything I would ever want in a comic in these 4 issues, because that way I can at least die knowing that I put it down. And that's been the fun challenge about working on our sequel is I'm not in comic book jail, and I actually get to do more of these things. So it's what are some new fun things that I want to include?
Absolutely. So speaking on that, do you have any other upcoming projects?
Yeah, nothing I can officially announce yet. But there are a handful of books that we're in various stages of development on, various stages of contract negotiation. We're a whole bunch of different genres. I can say there's a fun twist on a rom-com that is going to be down the pike soon. A fun sci-fi idea that I'm really excited for the world to see. And then I have an epic fantasy idea that we think we're going to find a home for that very soon.
So you're going all over the place.
Going all over the place. And then, of course, Spencer and Locke. It's my first love. I love these boys. And so we are hard at work on our sequel. We will have some news about that at San Diego Comic-Con next month. And, if our sales are strong enough, I have ideas for a third arc that I think will blow people away.
Awesome. That's really awesome. So, this stuff's all through Action Lab and Danger Zone and stuff like that. And this is a question I think everybody kind of gets asked whenever they're more at one of the smaller studios. If you had to write a bigger project, or if you ever wanted to, like DC, Marvel, like what would you think about writing?
Oh man, I spend an unhealthy amount of time daydreaming about Justice League lineups. So, I mean, if I could write any one book, it'd definitely be the Justice League. Avengers being a close second. There's just so many characters I love. Superman, Shazam, The Flash, Iron Fist. I've got a pitch that would make your toes curl. Cloak and Dagger are two characters that are very close to my heart. I think they should have been Avengers 10 years ago. There's loads, but listen, Marvel and DC, if you're listening, call me. I'll take any book. But what's so great about creator owned is that you can kind of take chances and really kind of flex your muscles a little bit. And I never want to be that kind of creator who thinks they can run before they can walk. And so I'm really excited, sort of, continuing to kind of cultivate my own voice and my own audience with my own stuff. Yeah. And but that said, if the big two wants me, they know where to find me.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. What is your go-to karaoke song?
"Kiss from a Rose" by Seal.
That was such a good answer too.
That's my go-to, guys.
That is a great go-to.
Every time, the crowds love it.
If you were stranded on a deserted island, what 5 items would you take with you? Items could also be people. It's like this weird nihilistic viewpoint on the world.
Man. All right.
Who are the 5 most delicious people in your life?
I'd bring my girlfriend and my dog. So that's two. If only because I'm not sure what either of us would do without each other. I would bring my laptop, just and maybe get a Wi-Fi card there. That counts as one item, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully a satellite phone so I can get the hell off this island. And a grill, because that would be fun.
Just a grill.
Just a grill.
So
awesome.
With the 5 items question with the islands, I mean, couldn't you just take like a house or a boat?
Yeah,
or
right. That's a better answer.
I'm so glad he never answered me to this question, because I would just give the darkest answer, give him the worst stuff. If you lived in a fantasy land, would you ride a chocolate pony?
Does the chocolate pony melt?
That was what I was thinking.
See, yeah, it's the same thing. Well, it is your fantasy land, so I'm going to say you can make it up.
Only if it let me take a little nibble.
Yeah. It's like one of those ones where you're leaning down, it's all close.
A little love bite on the ear.
Yeah, the ear's gone all of a sudden. Nice. Well, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Pepose.
Thank you
awesome
so much.
Talking to you. Really love the story.
One last question. Where can people find you and your book?
Yeah.
Yes, Spencer and Locke. What if Calvin and Hobbes grew up in Sin City? You can find this book anywhere comics are sold. Your local comic shop can order it for you with the pre-order code June 17 1107. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Comixology, Kindle. Surprisingly enough, we're on Target and Walmart's websites. So anywhere you can order books, you can order Spencer and Locke. Now is the perfect time to get in on the ground floor, because we're going to have Spencer and Locke 2 coming soon to a comic shop near you.
Awesome. Great book. Great guy. Nice meeting you.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right. We want to thank David again for taking time to talk with Destinee and Joel, and thank the two of them for getting work done while we were up in Denver. So let's see. So Josh, what did you learn today?
I learned that you like all the books as long as they're not printed on newsprint.
Oh, that's not true. And that's a silly thing to learn. Well, what you really should have learned is that Mulder has a sweating condition when he's in Florida, and it looks like he's on bath salts. That's what you should have learned. Because that's what I learned.
Maybe he was on bath salts.
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't.
You don't know what he does in his spare time.
Pretty positive if that was the case, we would have seen it someplace in the book.
I don't know.
I'm pretty good friends with that guy, so. All right, so let's do some books to watch. I would suggest, now, so there's a book getting ready to come out here Captain America first, okay, so let me dial back for a second. So on the 4th of July, here this coming week, We're gonna have the new Captain America #1. I'd say that one would be a good one to get on. There's a book coming out from Image here in the next, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks called Unnatural. I'm interested only for the sake that it's kind of bizarre. And, I'm interested to see what it winds up being, really. So I guess look for that guy. Cosmic Ghost Rider, when that comes out, I think that'll be awesome. It's a 6-part miniseries. I think that'll be cool. I guess we'll see where it goes as a thing.
Does anybody know who Cosmic Ghost Rider is yet?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
And I want to say it was revealed. Well, if it provides the same Cosmic Ghost Rider, it was revealed back in Thanos #13, I believe. So I think that'll be cool as a miniseries. I felt like there's a couple other books in there that I was like, these things are freaking awesome, but now I don't have any memory in my head about things. Oh, City of Explored, or Unexplored, City of Unexplored? City of Unexplored. Is that what it's called? Shoot. There's a book from Action Comics that, The Lost City of Explorers, that's what it's called.
From what company?
From Aftershock Comics.
Aftershock.
Yeah. I'm interested in that thing just because they teased a preview of it in the back of a couple of books, and the preview basically shows a batch of like archaeologist types that find a pool in like a old part of it underground, or an old part of a city that's underground now, and it looks like just a pool of water, but when you affect it with a particular batch of frequencies or sound, it becomes a doorway. And that's kind of where the preview leaves off, but I guess the whole idea about it is exploring lost cities from other civilizations and stuff, so it's like alternate history stuff, which I think is cool. So I think that'll be pretty neat. At least the test page or the preview pages look great, so I think that'll be neat. Anyhow, Josh, any books to watch?
I'm loving the Avengers book.
Cool.
Fantastic.
Advent Against Avengers, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like the Superman book a lot. The Batman Catwoman wedding is coming up.
Right.
Gonna be a big deal. You know, I wasn't reading it until we went over it last week with the new X-Men Gold stuff.
Oh, X-Men Gold, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm excited to see where that goes.
Are we doing the new Mr. and Mrs. X, or Mr. and Mrs. X series?
Yeah, that should be fun.
Gambit Rogue series, that should be cool too.
And I heard, I'm not sure if this is what they're going to call it, but the Weapon X-Force or something like that is what they're going to call it. It's like they revealed the team finally.
Right. I don't remember what the title for the book was, but I think it's X-Force, but I don't remember that. It could be Weapon X-Force.
Yeah, I thought I read it was called Weapon X-Force, so it took me a few reads to like realize that that's what they were saying.
Right.
So maybe they're like hinting at like the return of Wolverine to that team.
That
possibly.
makes sense. I mean, at this point, we're having all the Hunt for Wolverine stuff happen.
Or a Wolverine, anyway. There is a new X-23 book starting though.
There is.
So that's interesting. Because she's currently the
all-new Wolverine.
The all-new Wolverine. Yep. So I don't know. Are they ending that book or?
Si, senor.
Yeah, so going back to X-23.
Yep. That's it.
Still fingers crossed for Red Robin solo book with spoiler. So anybody at DC listening to this, get on that for me.
Man.
Yeah. Do you think they're going to invite Superman to the Batman wedding?
Well, I assume that would be the truth, yeah.
I think he's going to be the best man?
Supposed to be, yeah.
Or I think Dick's going to be the best man.
No, they already did a storyline about how Batman chose Superman.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. Was Dick mad about it?
No, well, because Grayson's good-natured. So no. Although he did wind up having to fight Hush in the alternate reality, and we wound up finding out that Hush has replaced his own face with Nightwing's face. So that's only a matter of time before that comes back to be a problem.
Maybe.
Well, Hush is a crazy person. For a while, he was running around as Bruce Wayne whenever Batman was missing.
Oh.
With plastic surgery Batman, or Bruce Wayne face, excuse me. He didn't do the Batman stuff. He just did the Bruce Wayne stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so he's since had other plastic surgery to make himself Nightwing, which will not bode well in the future, I assume. Of course, he did get left in the other universe, so who knows?
They need to do like cut his hands off so they know that's who that is.
We're going to make sure you know who you are, Tommy. We're going to chop off your hands until he gets robot hands, and you can't tell the difference anyway, because he's going to wear gloves.
That's true.
Yeah.
Cut his ears off. Can't get robot ears.
It's not true. You grow an ear on the back of a rat, you can probably get robot ears.
Maybe.
I'm just
I
saying.
don't think you can really grow ears on the back of rats.
There's a whole bunch. Look on the internet, man. There's
I think that was just in that episode of South Park.
No. That's where they got it from. That's a real thing. I don't think it works. It's just like shaped like an ear. That's a real thing. That's where South Park gets all their footage from, is from the internet. Or stories from. The internet news.
So San Diego Comic-Con's coming up.
Yeah. Let's see, 2.5 weeks.
So you'll
from
be
now.
there.
Si, senor. So if you listen to this podcast, you're out in the... Well, I guess I don't know what my face look like. Which you can find that on our webpage. Ah,
there you
see?
go.
That's where you get myself assassinated.
And also, if there's somebody that, if you see there's going to be at San Diego Comic-Con and you would like to see CBS try and get an interview with them,
That's like a tall order, but go
well,
on.
just throw a suggestion out on the Facebook page.
Sure.
Or the Instagram. Just like, hey, if you happen to see this person out there, maybe ask them this question for me.
Right? Or a message in the comment section from this particular episode. That'd be good.
Yeah. Just anything like that. Any kind of social media interaction would be much obliged.
Sure. Oh, yeah. And if you listen to us on iTunes, I don't know, like
Rate it and leave a comment. That helps massively.
even if it's not a good, well, it's better if it's good, but, at the same time, just do it.
Give us 5 stars, but, I mean, you can talk all the trash in the comments you want. Just leave 5 stars.
Oh, my gosh. Well, that's true. Anyway, I think that's it.
And then also, CBS and me are on another podcast that you can't listen to with your kids called Never Been Done Podcast.
That's true, which you can also find on the top5comicspodcast.com website.
Anyway, yeah. It's the two of us plus a buddy of ours, T Huff, and we chat movies and directors and things like that. And it's not rated PG, so if you're an adult, listen away. It's funny, and if not, then I think we're funny. But if you got kids in the car, then don't listen to it.
Probably not the best choice.
Especially the upcoming episode with about Quentin Tarantino.
Well, it's because Quentin Tarantino and his movies shouldn't be watched by children anyway. Not really.
So
Even the edited versions, probably not a good idea. So Taki?
Nope.
Yeah.
Not happening.
Wakazadananda.
Don't die.
One of these days, you're going to watch Space Sheriff Gavin and you're going to be like, this is the best thing ever.